Submission Radio here, post-fight after McGregor Mayweather in the very special Submission Radio Lounge, usually Madison Square Garden, and being in the best places, the Honda Center in Anaheim, which was the Mahogany Lounge, of course. But today, probably the best place of them all, Kacper's Sukasa. I'm, of course, talking about Madison Square Garden, away from home, the very special Submission Radio Melbourne Lounge. This is a very nice place, Cass.
It's the Submission Radio Theatre Room. My big screen TV is over there. I've got a couch. Maybe you can see it over there. It's a big L couch. This poster I stole from a cinema once. It's for The Expendables, the first Expendables movie. I plead the fifth. So yeah, it's good to be home. And a lot of buffalo wings today, right?
Delicious buffalo wings, blue cheese sauce. There was some cheezels. There was some other delicious snacks, some different desserts. Boxes and boxes of Krispy Kremes, which I didn't think I'd enjoy, but I did. I haven't been touching the Krispy Kremes in a while. And just a bunch of good company, a bunch of good people. It's interesting that you mentioned the poster as well. By the way, this is the first Expendables poster, which I actually thought had, the greatest poster. It was kind of the most exciting time. Stone Cold Steve Austin's on here, Jet Li, a bunch of killers. So I kind of think it's good to be in front of this poster to talk about what was, in a lot of ways, a collection of craziness that went on today with the McGregor-Mayweather fight, Cass. First thing I want to get to first is production value. I mean, you and me are always talking about production value.
I wanted you to rant about this.
I've been waiting to do this post show for a while, so I wanted to talk about it. You and me, we've seen a lot of great production from the WWE to the UFC. We're kind of used to it. We sometimes talk about Strikeforce and other organizations and how they could improve. Today proved to be very difficult. We later found out there were issues with delays and issues with pay-per-views, but commentating-wise, the commentating that we got with Sugar Ray Leonard and the other commentator, I'm not sure what his name was, and also the fact that there were delays. We didn't know when fighters were coming out. The music was off. The commentators sounded bored. It just didn't come together like that big fight feel that you usually get from the UFC or a WWE or an event like that. So give me your, I suppose, grade on it. How did you grade it, and what did it... Did you expect this, or was this worse than you anticipated?
What's the grading ranking? A to F?
Well, usually we do Timothy Johnson mustaches.
All right, we'll do a half Timothy Johnson mustache for this one, just because from the lack of nameplates to the tail of the tape looking very generic, and I promise there are positives coming. We don't mean to start off so negatively in this post-fight chat, immediate reaction. But yeah, the commentators sounded like they were asleep. Fighters sort of standing there. Them being on camera, no music playing, they start walking, then eventually the music starts playing. I was surprised the entrances were, nothing really special. I thought, maybe some awesome live performances, maybe some kind of crazy celebrities walking out with fighters, either Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather. It wasn't anything too special.
When the camera was on celebrities, it was for way too long. And the celebrities just sitting there like, get the camera off me. What is going on? Of course, when the tail of the tape went up with the fighters, the age, the reach, the commentators would just read that. They wouldn't really talk about it. It's like, I can see he's 33 years old. That's all they would say. And you didn't feel that vibe. I'm wondering what the other commentators were like. Dan Hardy always does a good job.
We didn't get Paulie Malignaggi.
Yeah, which we were really disappointed about. So that was, and of course, Conor McGregor coming out. It was just a bit of a clusterfuck. He came out, the music was all wrong. It hit when he was long in the ring.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like whenever that happens, okay, I understand what's going on. Maybe Showtime don't really give a crap as much about McGregor and the whole situation, but it takes away from the presentation. You got McGregor. Make the most out of the situation. Make the most out of the moment. Make it so fans, go crazy and have that anticipation. And they lost out on a lot of that before the fight even started.
Yeah, it's like with the UFC, you have the whole arena goes dark. There's that moment, you build suspense, you have that oh shit feeling, something's about to happen, then the music kicks in, it's playing, the suspense builds, then finally they transition, they fade into the fighter coming out, and here you get Conor McGregor standing there awkwardly like, when the fuck am I going to be coming out already? And like you mentioned, the notorious part of his music after the Irish song, he was already in the ring, so that was a bit, silly. But things got interesting as soon as they got in.
It was very interesting. I mean, look, for a long time we spoke about this leading into the fight, which seems like forever. A lot of boxing media didn't really give Conor McGregor much of a chance. He wouldn't hit him. Some boxing media said that they wouldn't even touch him for the whole fight, which I found ridiculous. I've already spoken about it. In this fight, though, and I want to get your reaction. I don't want to break it down before you give me your reaction. Conor McGregor's performance, did it outlive your expectations going into this?
Yeah, by far. I mean, we've spoken about it on the show multiple times. I thought that, Floyd was going to be very defensive early. Conor McGregor would have a little bit of success. I thought he would have glints, little moments here and there, but ultimately, be very, very much outmatched. And I thought Floyd was going to, make him look bad. When you look at the whole fight in general, before it played out, I thought that Conor McGregor was, not exactly come off smelling like roses by the end. What did you think?
Well, I was surprised. I was very, very entertained by the fight. And just the skill that Conor McGregor showed just absolutely blew me away. I mean, you saw it from the first round. Conor McGregor wasn't there to play at all. Those first few rounds, you kind of almost got that thing in your head where you were like, is this going to be another Jeff Horn situation here? Is he going to try and steal this thing away? I mean, Conor McGregor was beating Mayweather in rounds. And that is something that I don't think many people thought he was going to do. People thought he was going to go out there, run after him. He was switching stances. He was hitting Mayweather with some really good shots. And I really thought that McGregor, he came into this thing very, very well. He was using his reach and his length and stopping Mayweather from coming in. It took Mayweather quite a few rounds to adjust and figure him out. And he was landing the sneaky jabs. He was flipping his hands around. There were some unorthodox techniques. He was switching around his stance. All in all, I thought it was way beyond what I expected from McGregor. I honestly thought that Mayweather was going to run away most of the fight and then just counter him, and near the end, and possibly win a decision. I was surprised by McGregor's ability to land punches. I was also really surprised by the fact that Mayweather, he said he'd come forward, and he did. What did you think about that?
I mean, he didn't come forward in the beginning. So the start of the fight, when Conor landed that uppercut, and you hear the commentators at the end of the first round asking each other, what did you think? And Sugar Ray Leonard was kind of lost for words. He was lost for words for a lot of the part, but he was saying, I'm shocked and I'm impressed. And I feel like that set the tone for really the whole night. Conor's jab looked really, really good. And for me, that was one of the big questions. We spoke about it on the pre-show about how with Conor McGregor, in MMA, he has so much success because he has so many opportunities for setup, so many different options. If someone goes for a takedown, he can counter them. He uses his kicks to get his opponents where he wants them. And here, without those tools, how's he, he has the left, but how's he going to set it up? How's he going to set up his big punches? And we saw a really, really, really good jab from Conor McGregor. It looks like a new sort of tool that he's worked on, that he's honed on, something that, he might probably bring into his future fights, even in MMA. And he was able to stop Floyd in his tracks, get a lot of success in the early rounds. Didn't surprise me that much because I expected Floyd Mayweather to sort of take his time, figure out Conor McGregor. But then at the end, when Floyd Mayweather's coming forward, pushing forward, fighting like a Mexican, as Conor McGregor, described him, that was really impressive. And I feel like for a guy like Conor McGregor, who was meant to go out there and get destroyed, to overperform, and a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who traditionally has been labeled as boring, to come forward and go for that finish, it was a great fight. It was a really fun fight, and it blew my expectations out of the water.
Just quickly want to get through a little bit of the controversy. A couple of people thought maybe the stoppage was early. I found it to be a good stoppage, and I understand why it happened. I mean, Conor McGregor was coming into this with 0-0. I think Bird, as a referee, felt like it was his job, I suppose, to protect Conor McGregor from any unnecessary damage and avoid a potential nightmare of a guy going in there and getting seriously injured in his first boxing match against a guy who's 49-0. I've seen that stoppage happen many a time in multiple boxing matches against guys with huge records as well. It happens all the time. So I was cool with that stoppage. What about you? Was there a part of you that thought it should have kept going?
I was totally fine with it. I think with Conor McGregor, he's a warrior, so of course he wants to continue. And I'm not doubting him and him saying that, all he felt was tired. But from what a referee would see, he doesn't know really what McGregor's feeling. He can't judge that. What he sees is a man taking unnecessary punches. And I don't know about you, but I personally thought like there was a few rounds where I thought it's going to get stopped at some point in this round. There were not necessarily moments, but the way Conor was clearly tired, the way Mayweather was pressuring him, coming forward, he was taking punches. It's crazy how he actually, sort of came back and there were ebbs and flows. So the fact that the stoppage came, late in the fight, that's something that surprised me. And I think in a way that makes Conor look good because it's not like, he got knocked out, face planted, completely unconscious. He was a warrior to the end. He didn't want to stop fighting. He didn't get put out on his feet. He was just, he was taking far too much damage. And like you said, that's what happens in boxing. This is in MMA. You know, maybe in MMA they would have kept it going. They probably would have, but not here.
Yeah, and you know, landing that many punches on Floyd Mayweather compared to a lot of the people in the past, he's fought the best of the best, and Conor McGregor right up there with the punch count as well. I mean, look, whether or not
111,
111, I believe, and I think
Pacquiao was in the 80s.
Yeah, and I think maybe Canelo was
117,
just 117 around there.
That's insane. When you have Max Kellerman and a lot of people saying he won't land a single punch.
Yeah,
and he's basically in the top 3. That's insane.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and who knows what kind of Mayweather we had today. You know, he was 40. He said he couldn't really spar for a month, but he still looked sharp in that ring. And landing that many punches with the speed and what he showed us, I mean, that's just a huge win for Conor McGregor already. The post-fight press conference, if you can call it that, that was something to sit through. You know, Showtime, Mayweather Promotions, whatever, they did their thing. They got the guys out there. But it was interesting because I learned a few things from Conor McGregor from it. And Cass, I want to kind of get your thoughts on it.
He's got a whiskey coming out.
He's got a whiskey coming out. Apparently, it's fucking delicious. But apart from that, I just want to talk about the fact that, number one, and this is something I think I kind of brought up in one of our shows, Conor McGregor preparing for someone to come forward on him like Mayweather did. He mentioned that he had one sparring partner that kind of went forward for 6 rounds, but he needed more practice in doing that. And that's just one of the things that happens when you jump over from MMA to boxing. There's just so much to pick up. And getting that experience, getting used to that, I knew something like that was going to be something that he would have to work on. And he admitted, you know, during the press conference that was a hole in his game. But the second thing that he admitted is he's having these patches. We saw it in the Nate Diaz fight. We saw it in this fight. He says he needs to overcome it, where he kind of feels like jelly, almost feels like he's going to give up, and then something inside him pushes him through. What did you think when you kind of heard him actually address this and admit to this and kind of say, okay, hey, this is the kind of problem that I have, and I've been dealing with it even in training for this fight?
I was kind of amazed at the honesty because sometimes you watch press conferences, even pre-fight press conferences where fighters are saying, you know, I'm going to go in, I'm going to beat this person, I'm going to knock him out. And you can sort of see that they're trying to convince themselves of that. And you can see that inside they're fighting a battle in their mind, as well they should be. When you're fighting the elite guys, it's completely understandable. And, you know, any kind of weaknesses, you don't want to address them. You want to address them, but you don't want them to be out in the open. You don't want you don't want your opponents figuring them out. And for Conor to explain it so vividly and talk about how you know he has around the 6th round or in sparring around the 6th round he got tired and he couldn't see the end.
Yeah.
Most fighters won't admit that. Most fighters will say, I'm a fucking warrior, I'll be there to the end, I'll die in the octagon, etc. And for him to say, like, I couldn't see the end. It looked like it was too much. And then once he got sort of to the last couple of rounds, the 10th, 11th, 12th, he was all like, all right, you know, fuck it, I can see the end. I'll just dig deep. I was amazed by the honesty, and that sort of speaks to exactly what happened. Like in the Diaz fight, where, you know, I think it was around the 3rd round, and the second one, he thought, oh, here we go, it's going to happen exactly like it did in the first one. And then he came back and he ended up winning that fight. And for him to, you know, sort of say that he won the last couple of rounds in this fight, I understand his mentality.
And of course, Team McGregor looking very sharp, very damp. They had the vest, they had the band going, very nicely dressed in the corner there. I didn't know if it was a corner of a wedding happening around the corner at T-Mobile Arena. But let's talk a little quickly about what's next, because, you know, Conor McGregor, he didn't really want to confirm or say anything as to what he wanted to do next. He wants to get a boat out, he wants to celebrate, he wants to sort of take some time off. But when Dana White came out, Dana White sort of expressed that he wants Conor McGregor to go back to MMA. And that makes sense. You know, the UFC want to make their cash. But when Conor McGregor was out there, he wasn't ruling out the fact that boxing may be possibly in his future next. So if it was up to you, do you want to see him stay in boxing? Does this Paulie Malignaggi fight appeal to you? Or do you think this trilogy with Nate Diaz is the thing to do next?
Yeah, it's funny because on one hand, it's a rematch with Nate Diaz. It's a fight that we've already seen twice. And then on the other hand, you've got Paulie Malignaggi, which is another boxing fight. I'd rather see Conor go back to MMA, honestly. That's what I think. Personally, me as a fan, I enjoy seeing, and it's not even Nate Diaz that I want to see him fight. I would rather see him fight, say, you know, a Khabib or a Tony Ferguson, or if Kevin Lee beats Tony Ferguson, I'd rather see those guys. At the end of the day, he's going to do whatever's most lucrative for him. I think it was, as the fight ended in the post-fight interview with Conor McGregor, he was asked if he's going to go back to the UFC, and he said, yeah, I'm going to go back. And it sort of seemed like, all right, maybe there isn't going to be any kind of public negotiations. He's going to go back, whether it's December or maybe early next year. And then at the post-fight press conference, he's sort of, doing his sales pitch saying, we'll see. He said that he's a free agent. I found that interesting. I'm sure people in the back in the UFC weren't, smiling when, their biggest drawers say I'm a free agent. He's kind of saying, basically, the message from him is, give me your best offer. Whoever's listening, whoever has money, whoever wants to put on big fights, make me an offer and we'll see what happens. So I guess the one thing with Conor McGregor, nothing would surprise me if he goes back into the UFC, if he fights in December, if he fights early next year, if it's in boxing. I wouldn't be surprised either way.
And there was a point during that press conference as well where he said how he was going to bring the pay up for MMA fighters as well. So I'm wondering what Dana White's thinking in the back when he hears the free agent thing, the pay thing. I mean, they're close. We saw the embeddeds, but money talks. So we'll see what happens with it next. I mean, look, big episode of a special episode of Submission Radio coming out tomorrow with Sean Sheena. We sort of go through some of these after-fight reactions and give more of our thoughts as to the stuff that came from this fight. But as we kind of wrap up our initial reaction show, your overall thoughts now that the card's done and the fight's over, did it live up to your expectations? How are you feeling inside about this whole thing?
Exceeded them. I was admittedly pretty cynical about this from the very beginning. Part of me was excited when it was announced, just like a holy shit fact that it's actually happening. But then when you really thought about it, I didn't think the fight would be as exciting as it was. But instead, we got a lot of drama, we got story, even things like Floyd Mayweather pushing Conor McGregor in between rounds, Conor McGregor, throwing the hammer fists. I have to ask, what did you think about the referee? Because I personally think there was some pretty terrible refereeing, just allowing them to stay in the clinch, allowing those hammer fists, not really being in the right position to see the action properly. What did you think of that whole fiasco?
Yeah, the refereeing in boxing is just really tough because they get these older guys who they think have the understanding to do it, but they don't have the physical ability to actually get in there and break these things up. And I think that's the crazy thing, because in MMA we're so lucky. We get guys like Herb Dean, Big John, guys that can jump in and actually handle a situation. Bird was actually missing a lot of those clinches, a lot of that stuff that was going on. That's, I think, kind of why Conor McGregor was kind of like, I was happy with the job that he did.
And there was that moment where Conor McGregor landed a really good body shot and appeared to hurt Floyd, and Bird said it was a low blow. That was another ridiculous moment.
Yeah. So overall, I don't think he did the best job, but compared to some of the terrible boxing referees that I've seen referee Floyd in the past, at least he separated the fighters and got in there at certain times that others wouldn't. So in that regard, I guess it's lucky, but yeah, it's still terrible. Refereeing in boxing, and that we'll have a discussion about this in another episode, but refereeing in boxing affects the fight so much more than refereeing in MMA. It just amazes me every time I watch these things.
And before we wrap up, because really this is just our initial reaction, we'll have an episode coming out tomorrow with Sean Sheen. But I'm just curious, you did a great job, by the way, this morning on the Young Turks at almost, 7:30 in the morning. We've been up ever since we're exhausted. But, what do you think about, as far as the boxing world, their sort of views on Conor going into the fight? We know what they were, but how do you think the boxing world views Conor McGregor after this fight? Now that it's ended, now that they saw what he was able to do against a guy like Floyd Mayweather, what do you think they're all thinking? Do you think he's earned everybody's respect?
That's the thing, because, the commentators, that was kind of like the boxing world, they come to Jesus meeting. But wait a minute. This guy can actually hit him. It's like they were genuinely shocked. I'm not kidding. And this is the thing with boxing that it just astounds me. Did they research him? Did they watch his previous fights? What went on here? And I think that's what the community found today. I feel like there's a lot more respect for Conor McGregor. I think they appreciate that they made this possibly one of the most exciting fights that Mayweather has had in a long time.
Years.
The last one I can really remember that really excited me was against Oscar De La Hoya. So that Pacquiao fight didn't do anything for fans. I think fans had a genuinely great time. They appreciate McGregor for making it 10 rounds, and they appreciate Mayweather for actually going out there, going forward, and finishing his career on a positive note. So all in all, I think it's a great win for Conor McGregor in terms of the community. You agree?
And and you mentioned the fans. It's funny because before that we were all talking about, everyone in the media was talking about how people are going to buy this fight because there's so much hype, and they're probably going to be very let down afterwards. I see almost nothing but glowing, reviews that everybody had a lot of fun. Look, the fights beforehand, they dragged on a little bit. You saw the arena was pretty much empty. It looked like there was 50 people watching, the undercard of the main pay-per-view card. But afterwards, as far as, Conor McGregor and Mayweather, just exceeding everybody's expectations. It helps, well, I was going to say both guys. It helps Floyd Mayweather. Who knows what he's going to do next? Who knows if he's going to come back? You would think, who would he ever return to come back? But you never know. People are saying if he spends all his money, maybe he'll have to come back. But as far as Conor McGregor, huge help for him. And whatever he does next, whether it's UFC, boxing, whatever, it'll only improve his drawing power.
Exactly. You know, I just want to say, the event exceeded my expectations as well. You know, I had a great time. We watched it all with some close friends. The barbecue wings were delicious. And it was just a great moment in sporting history. And it's just great that we could all share that moment together. The listeners, us, the build-up. You know, it's been tedious covering it. A lot of the same stuff for media. For casual fans, it was different. We spoke about the fact that maybe some of these press conferences were a bit ridiculous. But all in all, I think when you and me look back on it, you know, whatever, 30, 40 years from now, I'm happy we were able to do it. I'm happy we were able to cover it. Happy we were able to watch it together. I'm happy you guys gave the fight a chance and checked it out. And, you know, it's just exciting times for Conor McGregor. And I guess the end for Floyd Mayweather, but you got that Triple G fight coming up at least. And I think the timing is perfect. You put this fight first, that fight. Now, you don't want to put that fight before this fight. You want the better fight sort of later on. Boxing wins. They're doing great. And we'll see what happens with MMA.
Yeah, I feel like this was I think you spoke about how this was like an appetizer, and then Triple G Canelo is like the main course.
That's right.
But this is a fucking good appetizer.
Great appetizer.
You know, this is like you order spring rolls and they bring you lobster instead, and you're like, shit, I'll take it.
A big, delicious lobster. I mean, look, it's going to be a hard one. I wonder, imagine that. Triple G Canelo doesn't outlive the Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight. Imagine that for the boxing world. You never know. These things you never know in the fight world. But look, guys, we've got a special episode coming out with Sean Sheen. Make sure to check it out. We're talking about all the aftermath, all the stuff that's going on in the world of Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Jump on YouTube, subscribe. That's youtube.com/submission radio AU. In the comment section below under this video, tell us what you thought, because we want to hear your thoughts. And where did you watch it? Because it was here in the cinemas in Australia. I'm not sure where it was around the world. I know all the pubs were booked out. So I just want to know, what was the atmosphere like where you guys watched it? Were there any funny stories? If it wasn't a cinema, like, how did that go? Because I've always wanted to kind of watch something in a cinema, but this is too big for me to go there. So let us know. Drop it in the comment section below. Jump on Twitter and Facebook. Give us a like and a follow.
And tell us in the comment section below, tell us what you want us to be talking about. Because in about 24 hours or less, maybe a little bit more, we'll be chatting to Sean Sheen. So tell us, what do you want us to talk about? What do you want us to get really in depth for? And we'll be talking to Sean Sheen about that.
That's right, guys. A great moment for the combat world, the boxing world, MMA world, for Submission Radio. Some great wings here in the Submission Radio Lounge. Expendables poster behind me. There's a lot more stuff to come. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you next time.